our country a stronger place.
Order. I call the member for Dawson.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. It's no secret that I'm a passionate supporter of the sugar industry, given my electorate is the biggest sugar growing electorate in the nation. But we should all be passionate supporters of the sugar industry in this place because Australia is the third largest exporter of sugar. More than 4,000 cane farms along Australia's eastern seaboard are mostly owned by farming families. The industry underpins 50,000 jobs in this nation. Sugar production is a social and economic fabric that has woven itself through the development of many coastal Queensland towns. Despite its critics, sugar is a natural part of life. In moderation, it plays an important role in providing energy necessary for human bodies to properly function. The Australian Diabetes Council states that no single nutrient, including sugar, is responsible for weight gain or loss. The Dietitians Association of Australia believes it's simplistic and unhelpful to blame sugar alone for rising rates of obesity and other health-related problems. But despite this, the sugar industry has enemies that are trying to destroy sugar's reputation. Earlier this year, 3 US academics made a string of outlandish claims about sugar, for instance calling it toxic, saying it was linked to the rise of non-communicable diseases and that its effects were akin to that of alcohol. They advocated for the severe regulation of sugar and pushed for a tax based on the sugar content of a food product. These are things that I utterly reject. I note we now have diet books on the market disparaging sugar as a sweet poison. Well, there are enemies of sugar out there and there are also enemies within government, unfortunately. The current National Health and Medical Research Council's Australian dietary guidelines on sugar is this: consume only moderate amounts of sugar and foods containing added sugars, and that's great, but the draft guidelines that are out now change that to say limit intake of food and drinks containing added sugar, in particular limit sugar-sweetened drinks. The reality, though, is that the systemic literature review of all the papers submitted to the NHMRC advocating for a change in sugar status from moderate to limit as a means to combat obesity were found to be weak. There is no clear scientific justification for it. What's more, the facts are that while sugar consumption in Australia has dropped 23% since 1980, obesity rates have doubled and diabetes has tripled. If the dietary guidelines are changed from moderate to limit intake of sugar, this will end up in the lap of Food Standards Australia and New Zealand, and a purge will begin on added sugar in food products, replacing it with fat and artificial sweeteners, each with their own dietary issues. The same situation occurred in the UK recently, where authorities regulated the amount of salt in a product, changing the taste of their iconic HP sauce. What will the iconic Australian Tim Tam taste like if its sugar content is halved? This is nanny state madness. I call on the Health Minister and I call on this government to tell the NHMRC to stick to the facts when determining the new Australian dietary guideline. And the facts they have found, Mr Deputy Speaker, is that there are only weak arguments to change the sugar intake from moderate to limit.
Order. I call the Minister.